Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining hashtag No Limits. I am your host, Shelly Kino. It is wintertime here in Southern Illinois. As you can probably tell by my voice, this is not normally my voice, and I am dealing with something. Hopefully, you won't be distracted by that because we have a really good show for you today, and I hope that you will focus on my guests and not too much about my voice. Hashtag No Limits is about people who society has placed limits upon, but who have busted through those limits. Ophelia says in Hamlet, "We know who we are, but not who we will be." And I believe that that is 100% true, and that there's not a better, more beautiful example than the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. Quick science lesson for those who don't know: the caterpillar dissolves into cells, reforms into the butterfly, but that's not it. It's not finished struggling. It then has to fight to get out of the cocoon in order for its wings to be strong enough to take it everywhere it's going to go. I can't imagine any of that is easy, but then neither is busting through limits that society places upon a person. And that's why I think it's such a great example of what I'm trying to do with hashtag No Limits. Today, I am honored to have Jeff and Catherine Pearson with me, and they have an incredible story to tell you. And so, without further ado, oh, wait, nope, I have to have further ado. Remind you to, if you are watching live, give us a hashtag live and where you're watching from. If you're watching in the replay, give us a hashtag replay and where you're watching from. Make sure to like or subscribe to this channel so you don't miss an episode of hashtag No Limits. And I think that's it. Now, without further ado, welcome to the show, Jeff and Catherine. How are you both doing today?
Thank you. That's a cool idea. I'm gonna do that with mine. That's a really cool idea. I love that hashtag and then where you're from, watching from. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, we're doing great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So you said you're going to do that with yours. So go ahead and explain a little bit about what you mean when you say, "Oh, I'm going to do that
You're
with mine."
what? Yeah. What the heck are you talking
People are
about?
like, huh?
Yeah, what's going on? So yeah, thank you. So I have we have created a TV show called Invisible Condition, and we air every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 9 Pacific, on E360 TV on the Arion TV channel. And we've been on the air since April of last year, and we bring people on the show that are living and yet thriving despite some sort of invisible medical condition that they live with and thrive with, and what are they doing in spite of it? And then also organizations from around the country and around the world, really, that are helping that population do better and live better lives and thrive too. So that's what the show is about. And coincidentally or not, Shelly, you're going to be on my show. We're going to record
Yes.
really, really soon too. And so watch out for her on our show, everybody, in a little bit, not maybe a couple of weeks. I don't remember, but
So very quickly, how do they find your show? Because they know how to find my show, but how do they find yours?
So you can if you go to YouTube or Facebook and just enter Invisible Condition, you should find us pretty easily. If you go to e360tv.com, that is our TV station's website, and you can go watch there. You can watch on any device. It's a free download. E360 TV is a free download on any mobile device. And if you have a fancy enough TV or a Roku or Fire Stick, you can search for it and then watch it on your TV in your living room, which is really cool. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So I'm doing things a little bit out of my typical order. So I have put up your social media links,
Nice.
How to find you personally.
Perfect.
It wasn't the show links, but it is Facebook, and then you have a whole profile number behind it. But yeah, I think if they just go to Facebook and search Invisible Condition, which was what I did, and it'll pop up. And then YouTube is at Invisible Condition, and then TikTok is at Jeff Pearson Official. So you got a little bit of a different thing to find there.
The TikTok is not necessarily focused on the TV show. That's more about my journey as somebody with an invisible condition, and how we're coming through that, and how we're how we're living life with it. So that's what that one's about. It's not specifically about the TV show. So, but it's still a cool channel, and you should definitely come hang out there too. So
yeah. I was just checking out your Christmas episode of Invisible Condition called what was it titled? Living Through the Chaos, Peace in the Chaos.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which can be tricky at Christmas. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so I actually want to talk about that,
Okay.
um, on here, but first, I want you to tell us what is your invisible condition, and how has it affected you throughout your whole life, and how has it affected your marriage?
Right.
I'd like to get
Yes.
Catherine involved. I don't
Yes.
wanna
I
just
know.
sit
We
back.
gotta. I know.
Uh,
Here she is.
you go first.
I'll go
Tell about
first.
your
Okay. All right.
condition, and then I'll chime in.
Okay. So I was born with a condition called hydrocephalus, which loosely translated is water on the brain. Hydrocephalus, water on the brain. So what happened was at my 2 week checkup. I was born with it, and so at 2 week checkup, they do a lot of the same measurements they do at birth. Length and weight, and just to make sure the baby's tracking. And one of those measurements is around here, around the circumference of the skull. And that measurement was just a little bit too big for their liking at that appointment. And so they said, "Hold on, mom and dad, you don't get to take them home yet. Let's do a CAT scan." And they found out that one of the ventricles in the brain, the ventricles drain the fluid from the brain and from the skull. One of those ventricles was blocked, and so it was not draining properly. And so that is officially aqueductal stenosis or hydrocephalus. And so they did what they do with most typically with treating hydrocephalus, which is brain surgery. And so at 2 weeks old, I had my first brain surgery, and they drilled a hole in my
Wow.
skull back here and threaded a little tube in there to suck that fluid out so it wouldn't collect. And there's a shunt attached to it right here, and there's a cord attached to the shunt. And that shunt or that cord just kind of reroutes that fluid somewhere else in the body um, so that it's not we got to play so that it's not collecting up there. So
Right.
that was my introduction into the world was brain surgery at 2 weeks old. And then I had a couple more over my childhood. And I've had four brain surgeries since 2014. And I've had about 15 surgeries overall, but only 7 of them are brain surgeries. So we've
Oh,
I
not a
know it
big
sounds
deal.
funny when I say
Only half of them.
I've only had 7 brain surgeries. It's okay. It's cool.
Right, no big
Um,
deal.
and honestly, from birth to about 36 years old, I'm 47 now, from about almost 48 in March. So for about the first, 36 years of life, everything was cool, man. We had surgery. I mean, I had a lot of surgeries, but I came through them really well. And my parents, God bless them, man. My parents, who are still around, thriving. They live in Oregon now with hanging out with the younger grandkids. Our kids are older, so But anyway, they are they're awesome. And during my childhood and during my growing up years, and really they instilled a spirit in me of, you are not sick. You just have this thing. There's a thing in your head that's pumping fluid or whatever. And once in a while we'll have to have it replaced, but surgery is just surgery. No big deal. Carry on. And of course, they
Mhm.
discouraged me from playing things like football and soccer and rugby and things where you're banging your head against things. And, obviously, but really, it was a pretty normal childhood. It was very chill. It was very, they in the as far as my condition is concerned, I never really was treated differently. It was never really a thing. They just said, "Look, go. You're not your condition. Just go, do your thing, live your life." So I'm very thankful for that, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, depending on the condition, sometimes you have to make it more of a priority. But for me,
Mhm.
I'm so glad that was the approach that they took. And so it was pretty cool. We had a pretty cool childhood. So and
And so
somehow,
just
somehow they did miss snowboarding. I'm not sure how. They did let me skateboard and snowboard as a kid, and I still do 30 years later
Without a helmet.
without a helmet for the first
That's
20
Right?
whatever years. Yeah. I
oh
just
my
started
gosh.
wearing a helmet a couple of years ago, so shh, don't tell anybody. But
Well, I mean, snow is soft, so if you land in the snow or you hit the snow, it's not a problem. It's
you know
not
what?
like
If
it's,
you just the trick is just don't fall. It's
don't
cool.
fall.
It's okay. Just don't fall.
Exactly.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
So, just because as you can I got the right side, I normally get the wrong side. So
Hey.
I am a teacher
Yes.
of, students that had individualized education programs. Um, so basically what I hear you're saying, and so I just want you to confirm this if I'm incorrect, it had no effect on your mental acuity, your motor skills, your speech skills, and so you didn't really need accommodations going through school, or did you have a couple maybe?
I never
Okay.
really had to have accommodations at all ever, going through school. Never had to take a regular medication ever in my life. Like I made it out super well. Um, I
If I remember correctly, you did some tutoring?
Yeah, I did some math
So there
tutoring,
was
but math is dumb. So I don't get math
Tell me how
anyway.
you really feel, Jeff.
I mean, I just didn't get, like, there was some math that I just did not understand. And so I did do some, you're right. You're absolutely right. I did do some tutoring in junior high and um, for that, but I don't think it had anything to do with my condition or anything. I think it was just my parents saw me struggling with math and said, "Let's see if we can help you." So
his mom was also a school teacher.
yes, she was also a
Ah.
school
So she could
teacher.
relate. And
So
so
yeah,
I'm guessing she part of her teacher perspective was probably, like, I could see my son doing a little bit better. So we're gonna get him some tutoring options. So
yeah, it
Yeah.
yeah.
was fine. It's good. The tutoring was fun. It was at a pretty cool place in my hometown, and it was good. I enjoyed it, and I did learn stuff. It was helpful. So yeah,
Good.
it was good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I had to take algebra tutoring in college because I never felt like I was understanding it.
Right.
And so I don't have any, to my knowledge, need of brain surgery for anything.
Good.
So I feel like I'm probably just, never been good at math. So and
Mm,
definitely. And I actually, when you were describing the shunt and everything, I was like, oh yeah, I had a student that had that. He had it when he was in first grade.
yeah.
He had spina bifida,
Yep.
and then eventually they found out that there was also the hydrocephaly going on. And
Sometimes those
so,
can go together. Yeah. There's a lot of
yeah.
co-conditions that can, like I said, thankfully I've escaped all those co-conditions so far, but there are
Mhm.
some very, like you just said, yeah. Seizure disorders, spina bifida, there's some certain things that can go along with it. So yeah,
Right.
that's
So
interesting.
Fran, I just want to say hi. Fran is
Yeah.
joining us from also Southern Illinois. So she's also dealing with the snow and ice that I am dealing with. Hopefully she's not dealing with the congestion stuff as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you were not treated differently or that you were incapable of certain things.
Right.
I mean, it was a safety issue for you not to play certain sports. It
Yes.
wasn't that you couldn't because, I mean, yeah,
Right.
you could, but you would have had to have like, somehow extra protection or something. But,
Yeah.
um, and unfortunately, I don't think that was necessarily the case for my student. I was already seeing him as a special education student,
Yeah.
but I mean, brain surgery, 7-year-old kid, of course,
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh my gosh, and so you said you had your first surgery at 2 weeks.
Yeah.
How many then did you have like before you got into school and then during your school years?
So surgeries total before school was one, two, three, four. There was four surgeries before I ever hit kindergarten. Two brain surgeries and two others, and then I had eye surgery at 2 years old. I had no, that was before school. That was okay. So five eye surgery at 2 years old. I had another eye surgery in fourth grade. I had my second brain surgery was 6 months old. I had another one at 18 years old. I had so we've had some there's been some surgeries, but as I said, it was pretty good outcome for most of them. The craziness didn't start until August of 2013. That's when I've had 6 surgeries since then, 4 brain surgeries, and that's kind of when the craziness started. So, but before that, there is a story. I want to talk about Catherine for a second because she did not have to deal with any of this until we were married about 14 years because as I said, going through school, everything was cool.
Mhm.
Everything, I would, yeah, surgery, but then I'd come right back to school and nobody would even know I had surgery. And so we met in seventh grade band class. And so we have been
Huh?
hanging around each other for a little while. And so she saw me, junior high and high school, never really had to deal with it. So I don't know. Yeah, why don't you tell us about your
Well,
yeah.
Yes, Catherine, tell us about your impression of Jeff. No.
Who is this funny looking kid?
Yeah, what did you think when you saw him in 7th
You
grade?
didn't even notice me in band. You noticed me in science class, I think. You didn't even
Oh.
see me in band.
I noticed you. we just didn't talk to each other.
Yeah, because I was too nervous because you were so
Well,
cute.
you
I
know.
couldn't do it.
Awkward teenagers in
couldn't-
middle
oh
school.
my God,
I mean,
so awkward. Oh,
Well, and I wanted to, I will address that for sure. But I wanted to, say, Shelley's um, show here is about no limits and, people overcoming maybe the limits that were put on them. And I think Jeff's parents and his experience growing up is actually a really great example of how parents could
yeah,
avoid that from the beginning,
yes.
right?
absolutely.
If you have a child or if you know of a child, who has maybe some sort of condition, it doesn't always have to be brought to the forefront, and maybe there are situations where it does, but for the most part, how can you maybe avoid it and just gently, guide people without saying, well, this is because of your condition.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
parents are really
absolutely.
good at navigating that very gently and very gracefully. So,
Yep.
but
Absolutely.
anyway, back to, so band class. Once we finally met and started talking to each other, as middle schoolers are,
As much as we can as middle schoolers. Come on.
as
Sure,
awkward as middle
absolutely.
schoolers are. But so we did date off and on through middle school, high school, and went a little bit in different directions for the start of college. And then about a year and a half after I started college, Jeff actually transferred to be at the same school where I was. And so we really, it was from that point that we really started to um, grow in our friendship together, really knowing that, this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. So
Yes.
my
Yeah.
impressions were good. You're good.
Yay! Awesome.
Yes.
I always,
Go ahead.
I always
You
thought
always
he
what?
was, really cute, handsome, strong. He always made me laugh. It was just there's nobody else. So, and
Humor is a fabulous trait. My husband is also humorous, and that it was something that attracted to me to him as well early on.
right,
And 32 years later, he still makes me laugh.
There you go.
right. We're at 25.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're a little younger than I am. So,
Maybe a little.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
yeah, just a little. You
Sure,
said how old you were. I'm not saying how old I am.
Nope. That's okay. I didn't hear a thing.
No, I didn't say a word.
Yeah.
So I did want to note that Fran did say, that finding that balance in sharing is very important. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, Catherine, because there are extremes. Like some people will never acknowledge that there is something going on behind the scenes, no matter what is happening, but somehow expect that you're going to know and treat them as and with that in mind. And then you have the opposite extreme where they tell you everything that's going on and then they blame that for everything that
Yeah.
their child does or doesn't do or how they act or whatever. And so yeah, there's definitely that balance. And because it wasn't affecting you academically, motorically, speech wise, I mean, I'm sure they just kind of said, and I don't even know, they may not have ever said it to the school, like, hey, by the way, let's not have him play football in PE class or,
I think she just addressed that with me. She's like, they
Yeah.
were very good at like gently redirecting, like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to, you like, I never really ran up to my parents and said, I really want to play football, but I've never been really that guy. But they were like, hey, how about band? That looks fun, huh?
Yeah.
Or how about choir? That looks like that could be a fun thing, and so they just kind of gently just kind of directed me there. Yeah. So
Well,
I never
okay,
really,
so
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I never really strongly, seriously considered any of those contact
Right.
sports. It was just because it was never really brought up, probably
Yeah.
strategically.
Well, see, they recognized something in your voice talent when you were younger already, because in the notes that we shared before the show, you told in those notes that you have performed at the Olympics and you have sung the national anthem at 2, was it minor or major league baseball
Minor
games?
league ballparks. No, I never made it to the majors. No, never,
Hey,
never
you
got
don't say
there.
never. It's not over yet.
Not yet. No, I did. I got to sing the national anthem at the minor league ballpark in town here in Colorado Springs. And at the time, the team was called the Sky Sox, the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. So that was a blast. And then about 20 or almost 30 years before that, I was in Pawtucket, Rhode Island at the Paw Sox. I don't even know if they play there anymore, but we were at a Paw Sox game, and I traveled with a group called Up With People, which is a singing group,
Oh, yeah.
performing group. And so I traveled with them in '96. We got to perform at the Olympics and got to go all over the place and sing all over Europe and all over the US. And so one of the stops we made was Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And so there was a group of about 8 or 10 of us that performed the national anthem on the pitcher's mound before one of the games. It was really cool. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
so there you go.
Yeah. Well, and see, again, that's a lot of times people don't realize that they have limits about someone. And that's, when I'm saying hashtag no limits, it's like, don't put limits on someone's potential.
Right.
You shouldn't treat them as if they will never do something.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I could see that have been in somebody's mind, like, oh, then, they're never going to
Well,
go beyond high school singing, or they're never going to go beyond, choir performances or plays in high school or whatever.
well,
And then here you go, international.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I kind of look back and go, wow, that must have scared the daylights out of my parents, because I graduated high school. I had brain surgery to replace the shunt, like summer after graduation. Had
Okay.
another surgery. Well, that wasn't until a couple of years later, but yeah, had brain surgery in summer of '95. And then January of '96, I'm on the road
Just a few months later.
for a year to go travel.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I'm sure my mom had a few curled up in the fetal position crying days, thinking about, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what is he doing? But to their credit, I never saw it. And they were always very encouraging of me doing it. And they said, go for it. Not gonna get out there. So, so I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Catherine, you knew him at that time. Were you guys dating, or did you, so by this point you at least knew he was having some brain surgeries every once in a while?
I did know about the one when he was 18 years old, yes. And so, but I didn't, I was naive enough to think, oh, that's just like a one-time thing.
Oh, right.
Sure.
One and done.
Like I said, I mean, I was 18 too. And so I didn't have any clue that, oh, well, maybe I should like read up or learn about this condition thing. That
Maybe this will come up later. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, because if his family and him are not making a big deal about it, why would you?
Right.
It's normal, isn't it? It's just a thing that happens. Like you go to the dentist and you get a crown, it just happens every once in a while.
I mean, I had wisdom teeth surgery or wisdom teeth out, like the year before. And so I was like, well, sometimes people just have medical stuff and you move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did know him at the time. We were, when he left for that year of travel, we were just friends. But it was actually during that year, he tells me that I was his best pen pal. I wrote him quite a few letters during that year. And
I still have them.
When he was gone, that's kind of when I realized, I was like, oh, I really miss him. And I want him to come back and be with me. So,
yeah.
So that is, that time frame was really when I was like, yes, that's, who I want to be with the rest of my life. I understand he's got multiple stories around that too, but so we got married at 22, just to kind of continue the story a little bit. And then we had about 14 years where there was not much medically. We
Nothing.
bought a house, we had kids, we had jobs. And then it was, I think you mentioned before, it was the fall, August of 2013, where he came home from work, doubled over in pain. At
Mm,
the time, we thought, is this appendicitis? Like, it was just
sure.
so severe and it came on so quickly. So he
Mm,
was taken by ambulance to a hospital, and the very next morning they said emergency abdominal surgery. Because of all the surgeries that he had had in the past, it had
mm.
created a lot of scar tissue around his intestines. And some of that had grown to the point where it was starting to create an obstruction.
Yeah.
So that was the severe pain that he had. But so that was my first introduction to, like kind of that scary world of, oh my gosh, I've got 3 little kids right now. My husband is being, you know,
Yeah.
taken away in an ambulance, and then emergency surgery and all these things. It was that was the most uh mm, scary time, for sure. Was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
first?
Okay. So I have to ask a really dumb question.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And as a teacher, I actually say there are no dumb questions, but
I was gonna
um,
say, come on now, come on.
okay. So you're having brain surgery frequently,
Yes.
but your stomach area has the scar tissue. So were those scar tissue problems from the other surgeries that you were having that didn't relate to your brain?
Well, no, I don't. I think it was mostly because of the brain surgeries because there's the shunt, right? And
Uh-huh.
there's goes into the brain. There's a shunt there that pumps the fluid, but there's also the cord, right? And the cord has to be
Oh,
rerouted somewhere into the abdomen. Like there's certain places
okay.
that are typical for that to be rerouted to, and some of them, most commonly it's into the abdominal cavity, somewhere on the one side or the other into the abdominal cavity. And so when they do that, they have to they make a scar in the abdomen as well so that they can
Sure.
the shunt is here, but the cord has to land somewhere that'll work, long term in the abdomen. So there's a
Right.
scar that they keep reopening every surgery that's in my abdomen to reposition that. So that's why and so that's why all the scar tissue in the abdomen is from all those previous surgeries with the shunt and having to position that cord. And they've had to reposition it over the last 10 years or so, a couple, 2, 3 different times. And so it's been it's it's been interesting. Yeah. It's now I've got from the surgery I had to have in 13, I have what looks like a giant C-section scar. I've got like a 10-inch scar
Oh,
straight up the middle of my abdomen. So it's
wow.
and you can't even blink without your ab muscles. I'm just gonna say that is a very important set of
Well,
muscles
they are called the core muscles for a reason, I
for a
guess.
reason for sure. Yeah. So anyway, so that's why, yeah, that's why the abdominal
Okay.
surgeries. Yeah.
And we've said this multiple times, but really haven't defined when you've said brain surgery. So every time have there haven't been new problems, right? It's just been like that they had to adjust the shunt or adjust the cord or
Well, no, actually, so every time they've done brain surgery, it's because something has malfunctioned with the shunt. So the shunt,
okay.
fun fact, a couple fun facts about hydrocephalus.
I feel like this
Uh,
isn't gonna be a real fun fact.
well, no, fun fact,
Fun.
like hilarious.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very fun, tongue in cheek fun. Uh, every 15 minutes in the United States, somebody is undergoing brain surgery to treat hydrocephalus. It is super
What?
common. There are
Oh my gosh.
over 400,000 babies born with it every single year, and you can contract it at any time in your life if you have anything that obstructs that flow of cerebral spinal fluid that your brain is producing. So if you have if a tumor develops that blocks that flow, if you get a bad enough traumatic brain injury or concussion or anything like that,
Infection,
infection,
meningitis.
meningitis, anything like that can cause that obstruction of flow of fluid and cause you to need
Wow.
to have a shunt. So for me, like for instance, the one I don't know about the 6 month one, the one at 2 weeks old, and then I had it replaced at
Mhm.
6 months. I'm not really sure what the deal was there, but at 18, it was because the cord they put a new cord in at 4 years old to a longer one so I could grow, with it,
Right.
and that cord adhered to all the tissue and muscle and stuff that grew over those years, and it was not
Oh.
allowing the shunt to move with me as I grew. And so it was literally pulling away from my head, like pulling out of my skull. And
Oh.
Yeah, so that was 2
That
years
gave me
of
chills.
2 years of mind-splitting headaches, my
In high school.
senior year of high school, and finally
Oh,
had that replaced in so that was one reason. In, 2014, it was because they found a bacterial infection in the cerebral spinal
mm,
fluid that was collecting in my abdomen. They didn't want it to get to the brain, so to be safe, they just
Took the
took the
whole thing.
whole kit and caboodle out of there, replaced it, and then for some reason they didn't quite get it in the right spot with that surgery. So about 12 hours later, I was under again, replaced it again.
oh
So
my
two brain
gosh.
surgeries within 12 hours. And then in 2018, it was because of the excessive scar tissue in my abdomen again that it wasn't reabsorbing, and so they replaced it then.
Right.
And then in 2021, it was because that tiny little piece that goes from the shunt into my brain to access that fluid was
Mhm.
turns out was 100% blocked, so it was not
Oh,
draining anything. And so
right.
a little bit different symptoms every time, but really
Yeah.
the main reason anybody with hydrocephalus would have to have brain surgery is to replace the shunt. And
Right.
there's different types. I've had adjustable ones that can adjust the pressure and fancy schmancy stuff like
Mm.
that. But yeah, we won't get into that. I don't want your audience to fall asleep. But it's been but it's been quite a ride over the last 10 years or so with 4 of them in a row like that. So
Yeah. So question from Fran. She asks how long a shunt lasts.
it's a good question, Fran. Depends on the person. Honestly, I
Okay.
know. In fact, I just had somebody on my show for the 3rd time. She's the only person that I've had on 3 times, Stephanie, and she also has hydrocephalus, and she had her shunt put in about the same time I did originally, and then she's had like maybe a couple surgeries, and she's around our age, and has never had to have another one. So that's one
Okay.
person's experience. I've had 7. I know somebody in their early 30s that works with the National Hydrocephalus Association. I think she still does, and her brain surgery counts in the triple digits. So you
Whoa.
never know. I know, right? Come on,
Yeah.
like seriously.
That
So
that's why he says he's fortunate to have only had 7 brain
because
surgeries.
on average,
Right.
Mhm,
on
mhm.
average, the I'm not going to say typical, there's no such thing, but on
Right.
average, averaging across the world of all the people, these shunts are lasting a mere 2 to 3 years, and then your people are
Wow.
undergoing brain surgery to replace it again. So they only average about 2 to 3 year lifespan. So by the
Okay.
averages, at say 45, make it easy math, I should have had at least 15, maybe more like 20 something surgeries by now. By the averages, I've had 7.
Right.
I'm going to
Yeah.
count that as a good thing. So
It's yeah, well, yeah, to have less than the average definitely
when it comes to brain
a
surgery,
good
you want to
thing.
be less than average. Yeah. You want to,
Right.
But
Right.
Shelley, as the teacher, knows about bell curves, right?
Right. Mhm. Yep.
And that bell curve for
Yeah.
hydrocephalus and how long shunts last is so wide.
yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
2 to 3 happens to land in the middle, but
Yep. Huge
it
variance though.
yeah.
Huge. It's
Yeah.
so personal to different people. In fact, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to. We'll go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, it widely varies, and so I find
Yeah.
myself very fortunate to only have had 7. So
That's incredible. And so you started the Invisible Condition television program
yep,
to talk about hydrocephaly. And you also have, and I shared it earlier, but I want to share it again. And by the way, Fran says, thank you for answering. That's not the one I wanted to do. I wanted to do this one.
yep,
Hydrowithhope.com is your website. And
yep,
so you started Invisible Condition to share about hydrocephaly and the stories and the experiences that you've had. And again, to watch it, it's Invisible Conditions at e360tv.com. So it's evolved into something more than just talking about excuse me, hydrocephaly.
right.
So tell us about that.
So Hydro with Hope is we created that organization in 2022 because we were sitting in a follow-up appointment with a neurosurgeon in 2018, and I could hear, you know, we all know that the walls in those places are paper thin. Come on,
Right.
let's be
Right.
real.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
you can't really hear the words of what's happening, but you can hear the tone of the conversation. And
Ugh.
there was a family or something in that next room, and it did not sound great. They sounded distraught,
Mm.
and I thought to myself, that flashed me back to 2 weeks old. Like, what? Like, I wonder what my parents were thinking, right? What in the
Sure.
world would be going through your head if you found out your kid was going to have to brain surgery, especially repeated brain surgery? And so I thought, oh my gosh, all I want to do is run next door to them, to that room, give them a hug, talk to them, answer their questions, tell them it's going to be okay, But HIPAA doesn't like that. Doctor's office they
Nope.
frown on that. They don't like you just
Right.
running it
Yep.
off.
They're not like, nope. Yeah, you're right. They don't
No, they
like
don't
that.
like that. So I didn't. But yeah, on the way home from that follow up, I mean, we were talking. We're like, man, I felt very strongly that we should do something about this. And so I was like, okay, well, there's always hope, man. And so for the sake of the general public not having to read the big long word hydrocephalus, it took me a long time to figure out how to actually spell. Actually, that was a long word. So
Yeah.
we called it hydro with hope, because there is always hope. And so we published a journal called My Hydro Warrior Story, that is about 150 pages, and it walks people through. It's a fill in the blank journal, and it walks people through that experience of, holy smokes, I have to have what kind of surgery,
Yeah.
and what's from the beginning of, here's the hospital, the doctor, here's a picture of my gnarly surgery scar and my funky looking hair after surgery, and try to have some fun with it too. But really, it's about keeping those medical records straight, and so that when you go to that inevitable follow up, and they start peppering you with questions, you're not standing there with nothing to say. You've got it all written down, and you've got a collection of things you can tell the doctor when he asks you those questions. And so my goal is to get those books into every hospital in the country, honestly, to help families that are struggling with that. I cannot imagine it would be so cool to have had that for that
Right.
2014 surgeries and 18 and 21, and just be able to chronicle that.
I think if you
Yeah.
click over on programs and services, if I
Yep,
remember correctly,
programs and services, you should be able to find the book.
it should. Yeah.
Okay.
You should see it
And
there.
you'll have to tell me. I don't know if it'll switch because I only shared the screen. So did it
Oh,
switch, or are we still on
It
the?
did.
It
You're
did
good. Keep
switch.
scroll down a little bit.
Okay.
Let's see. Is that
There
it?
it is. There's the.
Hydro Warrior Story Journal. Yep.
Oh, might
It's-
have to click on the link.
There's
Yeah.
not a graphic, but yeah. There it is.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
All right.
There you go. So if anybody is interested in something like that, to give as a gift to somebody that that has hydrocephalus, that would be valuable. And you can't really see the spine right now, but because of the picture, the way it's pictured, but I deliberately left a little spot on the spine blank so that people could write, surgery 1, surgery 2, or the date or something, so that they can,
Oh, okay.
keep track that way.
Yeah. I don't
So,
know
and then,
if it's changing the pictures as I'm going.
right. Yep. Very cool.
Okay.
And so that was our nonprofit. And we were at a conference promoting that when we were introduced to the network president of the network that we're on, Arion TV, on E360, and her name is Julianne. She's amazing. And she, said, well, tell me your story. What are we talking about? Why would you want a TV show? And I said, I don't know. Let me tell you. And then you say 7 brain surgeries. We start talking about it. They go, oh, sure. That's something.
Yeah.
So we, and then that's where the development of the show came. And then we launched our first show on April 4th of last year. And we've been going twice a week since.
And to be clear too, from the very beginning, it was decided that the Invisible Condition TV show was actually not going to be just hydrocephalus,
Right.
But all different types of invisible conditions.
Yeah.
Jeff likes to say that he didn't think that the Hydrocephalus Hour TV show would last very long.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. There's probably enough cases out there, that we probably could have done it, but yeah.
But we've really, I think, appealed to a much wider audience to be able to talk about
so cool.
all different types of invisible conditions.
Yep.
From MS to fibromyalgia to neurodivergent issues and autism,
Schizophrenia, bipolar, POTS, pandas,
so
lupus.
many different.
I mean, There's
So,
there's so many.
and
There's so
There
many.
are.
and
There
there's
really
probably
are.
Yeah.
lots of people on your show, on our show, that would completely relate to the title of your show, the
Yes.
hashtag no
Yeah.
limits, because I think a lot of them, have dealt with, those, like you say, those limitations being placed on them and not being able to, really move forward. And sometimes the limitation is actually a medical community that doesn't know what the condition is, or how to treat it,
Yes.
or how to help them. And
Yes.
so there's a limitation on,
I mean,
being able to know what could help and how to access that and how to move forward.
and that's also yes. Yes,
And
100%. And
And
I like to say that I am a product of both. I am a product of both the traditional medical world and the alternative world, because you really can find benefit in both. When I had my two back-to-back brain surgeries in 2014, I ended up having migraines after that developed into
oh,
nonstop, all day, every day migraines. They were
that's
constant.
awful.
That lasted for about a year. And during that year, we went back to the neurosurgeon, of course, and said, "You were the last one
Right.
in there. Help me. What do we do?" And she was there, and
Go ahead.
her response would not have been as but anyway, he just looked at me and said, "Geez, I'm sorry. I guess you're just gonna have to live with headaches." That's what he told me.
Oh,
Yeah. So
no.
she wasn't
Talk about limitations.
talk about limitations. So
Sorry.
Yeah.
if I had listened to that, I probably would not be here. We probably would not be anywhere. I would probably be on the couch in the living room over there, still
Right.
hooked up on some kind of high power pain med and taking injections of some sort, probably. But we said, "Okay, thank you, doc. Appreciate it. Bye
Bye.
bye. We're out," and started looking around. And we tried tons of stuff during that next year or so, and everything from chiropractic to cranial sacral to, I mean, we ran the gamut of treatments, and we ended up finding two things that worked really well. I found a chiropractic neurologist. Who knew that was a thing? But
Oh,
right
yeah.
down the street, the only one in Colorado, and he's right down the street. So I
Huh.
went to
Well,
him.
that was God ordained.
Right, seriously. And turns out I knew him like 20 years ago when I used to sell clothes, and he would come in all the time, but I didn't real but then I reconnected with him a few years later, and it's like, "Yeah, I can help you. Let's try it." And so he cut the frequency and severity of those headaches quite a bit, but they weren't gone. So it's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, well, let's keep looking." And we ended up finding something called neurofeedback. And the version of neurofeedback that I got was pretty fast acting, and within about a month of finding that, migraines were totally gone. And so I say a lot that traditional Western medicine kept me alive. Thank you very much. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Yes, very important. The alternative world gave me my life back. I was able to.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if we hadn't found those. And it has continued over the last 10 years with other surgeries. The one we just had 3 years ago left me with some really nasty side effects too, but we were able to find a natural remedy in Oregon that helped that too. So it's just about finding, being an advocate for yourself and searching and finding and not taking no for an answer. So
Like
Right.
you say, don't let anybody put some limits on you,
Right.
Allow yourself to think outside the box and search and go find, for us it was in that medical space, but maybe for others it's like you help with people, in the teacher educational space, there's a lot of how can we think outside the box in that space, right?
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll be honest, I mean, I didn't always think the way I think now, but it took me
Sure.
searching and looking and saying, "Oh, I'm kind of feeling like I'm doing the same thing all the time," and reaching and finding other, like, "Oh, try this, do this. Oh, you could write the IEP this way, and add this in there." And yeah, I mean, it does. It takes research, and some of the limiting beliefs don't come from outside. They come from
Mm.
within.
Yep.
It's true.
And,
100%.
we decide, oh, well, okay, there would probably be lots of people that when that medical professional said, well, you're just going to have to live with headaches, they would have said, okay, I'm just going to live with headaches. And they would have
I
just,
yeah, everybody knows a few people that are just, and no, I'm not,
right.
no judgment, no condemnation or anything, but everybody responds differently, and some people respond with okay, and some people respond with
Mm-mm.
nope. So
Right. And sometimes, if you go to multiple doctors and you're being told, well, you're just going to have to live with it, it's hard to motivate yourself to say,
yeah,
maybe there's somebody out there that does know how to fix this or help me
yep,
remedy this, and exactly what you said regarding natural medicine or, other medicine besides traditional Western medicine. Yeah, I mean, that's the second time in a week that I've heard cranial sacral. Um,
right.
yeah, and the other person, it was because their child has autism,
There you
and
go.
the cranial sacral was working and helping them with their autism. Um,
Ironically, the cranial sacral actually made the pain worse. So for me, so it
right,
that was one of them that did not work. We did not go back to that, but we had to
right.
try it. We're like, let's try it. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens. So
yeah, and I was watching an episode of yours, earlier today, and the the problem that you had, I think after the last surgery was
yeah,
that all noise came in at the same volume and you could not block anything out,
right.
but you found somebody that would it was like pressure pointing, right?
Yeah, it was so the two main side effects from the surgery in 21 was I had large motor tics. So my whole right side of my body kind of looked like that all the time. And my
Oh,
whole body
wow.
was just the right side for some reason, but it just
Mhm.
wreaking havoc, and it was very tiring and very painful at times. And so the other thing was that filter in your brain that blocks out background noise automatically for most people, that
Right.
you can carry on a conversation that's in front of you in a room of 1,000 people. That filter was broken. I had no filter. And so when I would go to the supermarket, go to the church, go to the whatever,
Go
go
to
to
busy
work at a
school.
school that I worked at the time. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It
Oh,
was like
man.
everybody was plugged into an amplifier at the same volume and I couldn't block anything out. So that did not last long. I had to kind of um, uh,
Oh,
limit my time there at that school and eventually leave that career because of the side effects from that surgery. And then thankfully, my parents found something in Bend, Oregon, where they live, and they said, "Hey, get up here. We'll take care of everything. Just fly it. We'll fly you up here. We got to try this." And it was pressure point therapy on the vagus nerve, and she worked on me for 3 days. She said she did about a month's worth of work on me in 3 days. And
cool.
pressure point's a delicate way of saying
Pain. Yeah.
I'm gonna drive my elbow into your vagus nerve
Yep.
from head to
Yeah.
toe, and we're gonna just and basically what they did was press it in to the nerve until the pain dissipated, which was very painful. But
Yeah.
ironically, I didn't cry. I laughed. The harder she pressed, the harder I laughed. I don't know
Oh,
why.
well, I
So
guess that's
apparently, I
okay.
I have a high pain tolerance from all these surgeries, but yeah. And so after we left there, my parents and I went out to dinner at some food court in a mall or something like a couple nights later, and I was like, "Whoa, hold on, whoa, shh, wait, do you hear that?" And I could hear the music, and I could hear what my mom was talking to me or something, but everything else was just
White noise.
I was like, "Whoa, it's back!" So
Oh
it was
my
pretty exciting.
gosh.
So yeah, but you got to search for this stuff. You got to find it and advocate for
Right.
yourself and look and not give up. So,
Right. And unfortunately, you don't know what you don't know.
right.
And I mean, that sounds like a silly statement, but you don't know what's out there. And thankfully, you had family in another area of the country than you were in that this person was doing that. But,
Yeah.
somebody on the East Coast would have had no idea. And
Who
if they
knows?
didn't have
Yeah.
family in that area that your parents are in Bend, Oregon, then, again,
Yeah.
they're going without possible relief because,
Mm.
other people don't know about this process.
Right. Which is why we created our most recent venture that I just want to touch on real quick
Mhm.
is Invisible Condition University. So
Oh.
Invisible Condition University is something that we felt there was a need for, and so what do entrepreneurs do? They create the need, they create the solution for the need, and so we said, okay, well, let's see what response we get, and so we launched it in August, and so Invisible Condition is basically it's something I think we wish we would have had 10 years ago. It's a place where it's a place where we gather on Zoom a couple times a month to kind of just network and say, what are you living with? What are you struggling with? And
Mhm.
bring all the knowledge that we had to find through the school of hard knocks over the last 10 or 12 years and
Right.
bring knowledge that I have gained from all my amazing guests that have been on the show over the last year or two.
Mhm.
We've developed such a huge Rolodex of resources that we wanted to share. And so Invisible Condition University, or ICU for short, is where we share that. And so a couple times a month, we're on Zoom for about an hour. In fact, I think what day is it today? Tuesday. It's
It's
today.
January
Today.
7th.
Today.
Mhm.
We're going to be on. I had to keep track of the date for a second. Today
Yeah.
at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, we're going to be doing that. So if you go to myfreegiftfromjeff.com, you can have a free month. It's a paid community, but it's really low cost. But we will give you the first month for free to check it out. And it's just a place to come and collaborate and be like, hey, what's going on? What can we, and then share resources, that
Right.
people might be able to take advantage of that could help. And then you don't have to do all that searching. So
That it's incredible how much stuff is out there, and Fran just made the comment a minute ago about sometimes there's too much information out there, and you don't know, what you need because you don't know what you don't know, so you don't
Mhm.
know what you need. But I to I've had so many different people on my show, that have talked about doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
and I feel like there are probably a lot of people duplicating, but I almost think we need that
Mm.
because not everybody's going to hear about ICU. Not everybody's going to hear about Sped Connect. Not everybody's going to hear about whatever else is out there.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
and so you do have to have it. I mean, it kind of is bothersome that it's duplicated because somebody else is going through the same work that somebody else has already gone through. But it helps. It really
Yeah.
does help. And I'm so appreciative for programs like this. And so this I typed it in, myfreegiftfromjeff.com is exactly
Yep.
what he said. It was very
There it is.
simple. Here it is.
Boom.
And yeah, so check this out. There are so many, as you mentioned before, invisible disabilities or invisible conditions. And I talk about that a lot when I do professional development with teachers
Yeah.
because we tend to overestimate a person's ability if they have an invisible condition such as autism or ADHD or a
Yeah.
traumatic brain injury or specific learning disability, because we can't see it and we're not constantly reminded that this person is dealing with something in
Mhm.
their
Yes.
brain that is affecting every minute of every day of their life. But because we can't see it, we're like, you're just faking. Oh, you're just being lazy. Oh, I hate that. Sorry. I just,
No, I
that's
get it.
just like when I would have
True.
teachers tell me, well, the student is just being lazy. I'm like, okay, if I could show you their brain right now, you would
Right.
more than likely see that they are working 10 times harder than everybody else in your room, trying to process and trying to, wheedle out everything and
Yeah.
ask and do what you're asking them to do.
Totally.
Um, sorry, that's my little soapbox.
I'm
We all
with
have
you.
them.
I get it. Oh yeah. Just yep. Everybody's got one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's such a great thing that you're putting together in any way that I can help distribute that out to people so that they can access it. I would
Thank you.
love to be able to do that with you because, yeah, it is something, and then having like divided into regions, even, like if there was, hey, here's the Northeast one, here's those Northwest one.
And see,
Here's, you know,
that's why we love doing it on Zoom, because then it doesn't matter. Anybody from any
right,
region, and it doesn't have to be in
right,
person, because maybe there's 2 or 3 people from the Northeast or Southwest or whatever, and so that's where the
right,
collaboration comes in and says, "Oh, I tried this. Where do you live?" And so
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
good
And I've
stuff.
started doing something. I'm not collaborating and putting it into any format, but I do a parent forum on another platform called Alignable.
Nice.
And it's a parent forum for special needs parents so that they
Mm,
can, no matter if they're thinking their child is going to be in special education, is currently there, or has been there. And it's exactly what you're talking about. So these parents get together once a month and we just, try to help each other navigate.
yeah,
Because if you're one step further on that path, then you probably have
you're the
something you
expert.
can share.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, guys, it's almost time to wrap up. I have so much enjoyed this conversation, and I know that when we record for your show, it's going to be very similar, that we could probably continue
Yeah.
talking for hours. But I always try to give my guests that one last opportunity. If there's anything you want to say, anything you had wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to share about, now is that opportunity to do so.
Go for it. Anything?
No pressure, Catherine.
I feel bad because I've been talking and she hasn't.
No,
But go ahead. Anything to
he's the TV show host, so he likes to talk. I'm okay being in the background, but no, sometimes I
Yeah.
let my face be seen. But I think, I think one last thing that I would leave people with is just to, like we mentioned, is to advocate for yourself. If there's a limitation that somebody else has put on you, or the culture or society, or if it's from your own, internal thinking and processing, I'd
Yeah.
really encourage you to challenge that limitation, and start brainstorming. Who can help me? How can I get past this? What resources are out there? Where can I find them? Because I think there really are, there's a lot more than we realize. And I know, there's can be some dark things about the internet, but really Google searches are not terrible. And even, nowadays, chat GPT
Yeah.
can be helpful.
Yep.
I don't want to get into, I don't want to go down that rabbit trail, but just advocate for yourself,
It is though. Yeah.
advocate, and
Yeah.
and keep looking, keep seeking that solution.
100%. And I think the two main things I want to leave you guys with, everybody, is there is always help. Always hope. Always, 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 always hope. Never give up hope. And the other thing that I like to say is, life doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. So just, if there's things going on medically, things going on, whatever, your circumstances don't have to define that. It doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. So
Yeah,
there you go.
absolutely. And there's one thing that I think both you guys and myself, and I believe Fran as well, because I do know her pretty well, is that you might feel alone, but you're not alone.
Ever.
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
And there's, like you said, Catherine, Google, look for a support group, look for something that can give you more information to help you down that path. Reach out to somebody. I'm available. I'm not a counselor by any stretch of the imagination, but I am a good listener.
Yes.
And I can empathize. I don't understand, but I can empathize. And, maybe I'll have learned something from one of my previous guests that I'll be able to share in a
Yeah.
situation and say,
Yep.
have you thought about this? And that has most assuredly happened to me when I go in and I'm no longer teaching full time. I'm a special education consultant. And so when I go into with parents to IEP meetings and the school says, oh, well, I don't think we can do that. Or, oh, I've never but guess what? I know of a situation in this town or this city or in that, whatever, and they're doing it. So we can figure out how to do it here. And yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yep.
You just have to be able to open the box and
Nice.
not say, nope, there's a limit. This is all we can do. No, there's really a lot more opportunities. I can't exactly say no limits, but there's a lot more out there that we could do than I think in many cases is being
Yeah,
done. So,
for sure.
well,
Yep.
thank you both so very much for being with me today. I very much enjoyed our conversation, and I'm looking forward to my conversation with you guys on your show.
Yeah.
And we'll try to keep you all informed as to when that happens so that you can cross over and check them out, and not just my episode, but all their other episodes as well. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Fran, for joining and participating in the conversation. Make sure, again, if you are watching in the replay, you hashtag replay and where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for Jeff or Catherine, be sure to put them in the comments and I will make sure that they get them. And then we can get those questions answered for you. Everybody have a great week. See you next time.